So that is a gentle cleanse. And if you want to make the gentle cleanse a little bit better, instead of an evening meal at night, replace the evening meal with a 10-ounce juice. So you're going to be fasting at night with that juice, and in the morning you're going to do this. You could do this for months. This program right here. We know of no adverse effects of doing this. We're not aware of any adverse effects. As a matter of fact, I think it's the toxicology, National Institute of Toxicology. For issues of toxicity, they've recommended up to, 10 tablespoons of charcoal for people, for very toxic patients. For poisoning, thank you, for poisoning. So this is just what we got here. We got, let me see. Yeah, 1 tablespoon. But let me read this slide before I go on. So activated charcoal, it absorbs heavy metals, chemicals such as pesticides, chlorine, aflatoxins. Remember we talked about peanuts, the aflatoxin. Mold. If people that got a mold infection, you need to be taking lots of charcoal. And then BPA from plastics, even viruses. It's effective for viruses, yes. Flu, helping out with flu, absolutely. Yes, now that's actually our next bullet point here. Remember, charcoal absorbs toxins. It'll also absorb medications. So if you're taking medications, you want to make sure that when you take charcoal, you're taking it either an hour and a half before or an hour and a half after, because it'll essentially nullify whatever your medication was supposed to do. And so if you're on a prescribed medication because you have a serious condition, you don't want to interfere with that, make sure not to take the charcoal right next to when you take your medications, because it will nullify that. Alrighty. And so this is a little recap here. After taking the lemon and 3 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of charcoal with 1 cup of water. So it's 4 cups of water total. And that's something really simple, easy you could do in the morning. We're going to demo it here in a few minutes.
You can volunteer?
Yeah, we could do volunteer, absolutely. All right, here's some other binders. There's a lot of binders that you could use besides charcoal. One of them that we recently learned about is called zeolite. Zeolite. Now, zeolite is very much like activated charcoal. It's a tiny little powder that is very, very porous, and it's really, really incredible at binding to toxins. Who heard of Fukushima, the nuclear meltdown? Fukushima? Do you know what they put in the water after Fukushima happened? They put zeolite. Tons and tons of zeolite in the water. It's actually been proven to absorb radioactive material as well. And so it absorbs all kinds of things. It's really good with heavy metals. It's really good with molds. You could get it in a powder form like you see here, or there's actually a liquid form that we use. We brought the liquid form. We'll show you. We got the bottle where they got it down to what's called nanozeolite. They got it down to just minute particles. And the reason why they got it down so little is because it absorbs really quickly into the bloodstream through the gut. Just the absorption rate is really rapid, and it gets into cells. This stuff, zeolite, detoxes your cells, crosses your blood-brain barrier, detoxes the cells in your brain. So this has potential to help people with neurodegenerative diseases. We're talking Alzheimer's, we're talking Parkinson's. This stuff can theoretically have very positive effects on those conditions. Let me share you a little testimony about zeolite. You can find it online. I'll show you the brand that we have. It's called Results RNA. We'll pull the bottle out. You could actually look at it. I had neck pain for about a decade, on and off. I could not figure out. I've seen maybe 3 physical therapists, 1 chiropractor. I've been through so many cracking, popping sessions trying to fix this neck pain. We found out about zeolite, and we were taking it because we were testing it out to see how it was for cleansing. It took my neck pain away. And I'm thinking, was that a skeletal issue or was that a toxin issue? And I remember I said I had an issue. I had a past of drug use and chemicals and street drugs and stuff. Maybe that stuff got stored on my neck. It was causing my neck pain. I don't have that neck pain anymore. This stuff took care of it. And I still don't understand how that happened, all the pathology of it, but it's what it did. All right, another binder, modified citrus pectin. This is another one that's really good taking out heavy metals, taking out molds. And what it is, it's a carbohydrate that's derived from citrus peels. And it's just one of those things that has a very strong affinity for binding to toxins. And we have the bottle of that as well, so you could look and see the kind that we have used. But there's a lot of different kinds you could use. Then lastly, this is the easiest part, elimination. How do you do that? Drink lots of water. Drink lots of water, get that stuff out of your colon. As soon as it gets bound, as soon as it gets redeposited into your colon, man, you want to flush that stuff out. So drinking lots of water. Some other things you could do, psyllium husk is good. Fiber going through your colon, scraping the stuff off the walls, getting things out. Also, enemas. Enemas are another way. Colonics are a larger version of it, of just flushing the colon, flushing that stuff out of there. And so these are all therapies that can be used to get those toxins out when it's time to get them out. Fasting's one way. We just talked about fasting, but there's many other things you could do. Saunas, sweat baths. Anyone ever been in a sauna or sweat bath? There's also high infrared saunas. Really, really good. Those also are known to detox at a cellular level, getting junk out through the skin. Someone who has a really sensitive digestion, use the skin to get the junk out. Induce sweating, get them in a sweat bath. Very effective. Dr. Kellogg, anyone hear of John Harvey Kellogg? He used sweating a lot, and he would heal all kinds of folks by getting toxins out of their skin. Also, hydrotherapy, alternating hot and cold water. Leviticus 17 says, the life of the flesh is in the blood. That's right. The blood brings the immune system, it brings the nutrients, and it takes away the waste. So we want to stimulate that circulation of the blood. One of the ways we do that is by alternating hot and cold water. That's called hydrotherapy. I have a form of osteoarthritis in my wrist. Let me see if I can. I don't know if can you hear that? That popping? I grew up real wild, snowboarding, going off of huge jumps and stuff, and I would fall and land and smash my wrist all the time. And when I do hydrotherapy on it, I just dip it in hot water for 3 minutes, cold water for 1 minute. When I do that consistently, it takes it away. It takes that pain and that popping away. And so hydrotherapy, really amazing stuff. Also, you could do a hydrotherapy shower where you immerse your entire body in hot and cold water. Has anyone ever done this? All right, we have a few brave souls. It's quite intense. It'll have you singing soprano real quick. It is just, what you do is you want to get in the shower and you want to warm your body up to the point where you're very comfortably hot. I'll get to you in just a second. You're very comfortably hot because you know what you're going to do next? Woo! You're going to turn it to the cold and you'll be singing the Hallelujah chorus. It's just that cold. What it's doing is the hot water is bringing all the blood to your surface. The cold is repelling it back into your core. And you want to do that back and forth 4 times. 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds cold. 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds cold. You want to do that 4 times. I was talking to someone today about increasing your immune system. This has been known to stimulate your immune system by, can you help me with that figure? Stimulate red blood cell production by 300% and white blood cell production by 30%. Okay. So what it does is it stimulates your immune system. It stimulates red blood cell production and white blood cell production. So if you feel like, I got a tingle in the back of my throat, you know that feeling when you're just starting to get cold? Man, do a hydrotherapy shower. You want to take care of that thing as soon as it starts rearing its ugly head. So, and you always want to end on the cold to close the pores up. Just end on a few seconds of cold. Lastly, you want to support your organs. And the main organ that you want to support is your liver, because that is the main processing one. There's other organs, your kidneys, your spleen, those are good, but the liver is the main one you want to support. How do you do that? There are herbs that stimulate and help the liver. Would you like to know what those are? Here they are. Dandelion. Very, very good. You could buy powdered dandelion leaf, and this is very good for the liver. Milk thistle. Milk thistle supports the liver really, really well. It helps the liver deal with the toxic burden. Beets and beet greens, juicing beets, beet greens, really good for the liver. Juniper berry, horsetail, selenium, sulfur-rich foods, all of these really support the liver. And when you're cleansing, you want to help the liver out because it's in overdrive mode. It's trying to deal with all these toxins that it's trying to get rid of. Oh, thank you. The last four are actually more specifically for the kidneys. Thank you, Jennifer. So the juniper berry, the the juniper berry, horsetail, selenium, and sulfur-rich foods. It's helpful for the kidneys because it's going to come. Whatever goes out through urine goes through the kidneys first. All right. So that's step number 4, cleanse. And then the last step of the whole autoimmune reversal protocol. Oh, you had a question, then I'll get to you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
They can lay in really, really hot water in their bathtub. Get themselves literally ready for a refreezable ice block. Hug it, put it first, count it in, alternate hot, cold, just don't go below stress. And God made us where it rushes in our own blood.
Nice. Hydrotherapy, wonderful stuff. Hydrotherapy is awesome stuff. Yes. I'm sorry? Yes, yes. Okay, so milk thistle, they're capsules of milk thistle that can be taken, but the primary way to take these, I recommend, is teas. You could buy the powdered forms, and you could bring water to a boil, shut it down, put a tablespoon of this in there, and just let it steep for about 15-20 minutes. Let it steep. That's right. So Jennifer's saying that's for everything. What I just mentioned is for everything except for the beet and beet greens. You could eat or juice those. And the sulfur-rich foods, which have selenium, they're foods. You would eat those as well. Yeah, Brazil nuts have really high amounts of selenium, and those help support your kidneys to cleanse. Last step. Remove chronic stress. Dun, 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 dun. You know, all this stuff, all we talked about, all those wonderful therapies, you know, it could be all undone if you are continually stressing, if you're continually going in a fight or flight response. All this stuff could just be a waste of time. You could undo all of it if you don't get this. Remember, Jesus, he healed physically, and he also addressed spiritually. Studies have clearly showed that our bodies receive physical damage due to negative emotions. It's not imagined, friends. Physical damage due to negative emotions. Most autoimmune patients report their symptoms starting with a stress event. What stress event could that be? Divorce, an injury, loss of a job, loss of a loved one. I noticed my symptoms when I found out about my autoimmunity shortly after my mom passed away. Pregnancy or delivery also could be one of those stress events that triggers thyroid issues specifically. But a lot of autoimmune patients, they report some stress event, even physical trauma like a car accident. I have an aunt that has lupus. She fell off of the counter in her kitchen. Lupus symptoms started right after that. And so stress events, it reacts in the body in such a way that it just tips the scale and the body goes into full-fledged autoimmunity. Stress can damage the gut. You saw the quote earlier about it could cause leaky gut. And so I want to tell you about a really interesting study. Oh, let me tell you about this experiment real quick. So this is illustrating how stress can affect your gut situation, the gut dysbiosis. They did an experiment in a lab where they had 2 petri dishes that had E. coli bacteria in it, which is generally a bad thing. One petri dish, they had just the petri dish solution, the E. coli. The other one, they had the petri dish solution, the E. coli, and they squirted adrenaline in there, some amount of adrenaline. They left overnight. They came back. What did they find? The adrenaline petri dish had 10,000 times more E. coli than the normal dish. When adrenaline gets secreted in your body, half of it, roughly, gets secreted into your digestive system, your small intestine. And so if you are regularly under stress, you're under adrenaline, you're under that fight or flight response, what's that going to do to your gut bacteria population? You're going to have lots of bad gut bacteria. So right there, an experiment proving stress can contribute to autoimmunity, it can ruin your health. Now I want to talk about the ACE study. During my years as a Christian motivational speaker, I have noticed that there's one source of stress in particular that seems to be worse than all of them. That is unresolved, traumatic childhood wounds. Every other stressor in your life, your problems at work, your problems with your marriage, your problems with your family, roots back to that. As I sit and I talk and I counsel with people, this is what I find over and over and over. And the CDC, the Center for Disease and Control, did a very interesting study about childhood trauma. They took 17,000 Kaiser Permanente healthcare members, and they looked at them to develop a test to determine how your level of childhood trauma affects chronic illnesses. And this is called the ACE study. And the ACE study stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. They came up with a test that was able to actually quantify your level of childhood trauma. And it's really interesting. A high score on the ACE test perfectly correlates with how likely you are to get an autoimmune disease. Very, very common. As a matter of fact, for every 1 point increase on the ACE test, it increases the risk for developing an autoimmune disease by 20%. 10 questions. So let's do the math. If 1 point equals 20%, if you get 5 points on the ACE study, on the ACE test, what's your likelihood of developing an autoimmune disease? It's 100%. It's 100%. So, and also the ACE score, only 2 or more increases the chances of being hospitalized for an autoimmune disease by 70 to 80%. Very, very interesting findings. And so I took just a little sampling. Let me show you some of the questions that are on the ACE test. And for every question you answer yes to, it's 1 point. Let me just give you about 5 or 6 of them here. All right, the ACE study. Did a parent or another adult in the household often, number 1, swear at you, insult you, or put you down, or humiliate you? If that's yes, you got to check. You got 1 point on the ACE, on your ACE score. Or, were your parents ever divorced or separated? How many people would check that? A lot. Up to 50% of our population would have to check that one. Also, did any parents or adults in the household often act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt? Did that happen often in your household? Yes? You got a point on your ACE test. Did they ever push, grab, slap, or throw something at you? Yes? You got a check on your ACE test. Did you feel that you had no one to protect you? Is that how you felt growing up? That's a point on your ACE test. Were your parents too drunk to take care of you? If that's a situation, that's a point. And the last question, did any adults or parents have a drinking problem or used or sold street drugs? And you would be surprised at the amount of people, when they go over the questions on this test, say, wow, I have a high ACE score. I actually, after my mom passed away, I thought about her and I ran my mom through this test. She actually had a decently high score. And now her autoimmunity makes a little bit more sense to me. And so, so the question is, can you, if this was your upbringing, can you go back and change the past? Can you get in a time machine and undo all that stuff? So what do you do? How do you heal from things that happened? It's history. It's a fact. It took place. What do you do about that? You can't change your past, but let me tell you something. I'm going to throw a gold nugget out there. Don't miss this. You can change the way you perceive your past. That's so key. You could change the way you think about your past. You could change the way you relate to your past. And studies have found that makes all the difference. It's not even so much what happened to you, it's about what you think about what happened to you that really impacts your mental state of being. You know, the Bible says, Psalms 103, verses 2 and 3, bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgiveth all thy iniquities, and who healeth all thy diseases. We see this, there it is again, the spiritual, forgiveth thy iniquities, combined with healeth all thy diseases. The spiritual and the physical, always coming together. And now, I'm coming from a Christian perspective, and I have found that the realities in the Bible are the only true keys that I have found that enable us to take traumatizing events and actually turn them into something that you could perceive as a benefit. This has happened with my life. One of those truths is the truth about who God is. You know what everybody wants? We want unconditional love. We want someone to love us, not because of what we do, not because of how much money we make, not because of what we could provide, what we could do, but because you exist, because you're a person, because you're here. We want unconditional love. That's the cry of every soul. And the truth of the Bible is God created you, and he sent his son so that you could be with him in heaven. That's the truth of the Bible. It's a healing truth. And there's another truth that I really appreciate in Scripture, and that's the power to forgive. That's a hard thing to do sometimes, isn't it? Especially when someone's done you real dirty. Well, let me tell you, there are 4 steps that I found in Scripture. If you want to forgive, if you really, truly want it in the past, if you want it buried, here's the 4 steps. Number 1, realize that your offender has incurred a debt that they can never repay. Do you know that people spend their whole lives chasing down someone that cannot give them back what they took? Even if they wanted to, they can't give it back. Your offender, the person who hurt you, cannot pay you back. But you know what? There's someone who can. Jesus has your payback. What got taken from you? Did your innocence get taken from you? God could give that back. Did your joy get taken from you? God could give that back. Did money get taken from you? God could give that back. God can give back and more, anything that has been taken from you. Step number 2, remember you've been forgiven a debt too. You know what? We remember the kids at school that made fun of us, but we conveniently forget the memories of us making fun of other kids, don't we? So interesting. We remember the siblings that were mean to us. We forget being mean to our siblings. We have to remember, you know what? People owe me a debt. People have taken things from me. There's some folks I owe a debt to. I haven't been Mr. Perfect. I haven't been Mrs. Perfect. There's people who are carrying a debt because of the things I've done in my life as well. You need to remember that. Take that into account. We're all debtors. We've all got debts, and we're all debtors as well. Step number 3, accountability. You never hear this in talks about forgiveness, ever. But this is biblical. And the love and fear of God, confront, if it's appropriate, if it's possible, confront your offender for the purpose of reconciliation. Let me tell you, there's a lot of people that they can never feel like they could get over the bitterness, the anger. Why? Because they have not confronted the person in a right spirit that did whatever they did. When you do this, it unlocks you from being a victim. But if you don't confront them, what you're essentially saying is what you did was wrong, but it's not worth being dealt with. It's not worth being confronted. And you actually put yourself in a perpetuating self-victim mode. Incredible things happen when people confront their perpetrators. Sometimes it's writing a letter. What if the person's dead? Write a letter and then burn it. Even that has helped people. But in the love of Jesus, confront that individual. And lastly, by God's power, put away those bitter thoughts and emotions. Let me tell you, that step number 4 is a lot easier when you've done these first 3 steps. And this is a way to truly forgive. So, as we wrap it up here, steps. Oh, does someone need? Okay, no problem. Oops. All right, I'll go back. Because those are important steps. I want you to get those. Take your pictures, take your notes. It's worth learning this stuff. You know, the fact is, all of us need to forgive somebody. No one gets out of this game without some dirt on their clothes. Some of us worse than others, right? But all of us have some dirt on our clothes. No one gets to this world unsullied. We all got someone we need to forgive. Can I move forward? Is that good? Okay, we're wrapping it up here. 5-step plan. Remove harmful foods and toxins. Step 2, heal the leaky gut. Step 3, nutrify. Step 4, detox and cleanse. Step 5, remove chronic stress. Sound like a good plan? Let me tell you, people who go through this, we have people who they purchase our book. They only go through the first few steps, and they're sending us emails saying, wow, my pain has gone by 50%. They haven't even finished the protocol yet. People who go through the full protocol, they see oftentimes reversals, full reversals like me. And so we're going to do a Q&A session, but at 7:50, We have a book available for those of you. People were asking, "Oh, what's your book? I want to get your book." We're gonna have a book available after 7:50 p.m. and we'll have a table where if you want to get that, you could pick that up for that price. But right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 10-minute break, and then we're gonna come back for questions and answer, and we're gonna demo a lot of those things that we showed you. So. May God bless you in your pursuit of health. You're dismissed. We'll see you back here at 7, a little after 7:30. 10 minutes.